Greetings, hello. How are you all doing? Welcome to Lecture 4, Part 1 for Life in the Universe. This would be the material we would have covered in the fourth in-class meeting. Be a total of 3 videos. So this being a new lecture, in person we would start with an alien of the day. And here I've got yet another one from Star Trek. There will be a lot from Star Trek because with over 50 years of TV series and movies, there's a lot to draw on from Star Trek. This is a Klingon. This is in fact the same character portrayed by the same actor shown in the original series in the 1960s on the left and in the series Deep Space Nine in the 90s on the right. The Klingons were originally introduced to be the primary antagonist of the Federation. And I think one thing we often see in alien depiction in science fiction, especially TV and movies, is that the aliens are intended to reflect some aspect of ourselves. And so the Klingons originally reflected perhaps the worst of 20th century humanity, brutal dictatorial governments such as Nazi Germany or Soviet Union or something like that. The original series was shot on a shoestring budget. So they had very little money for makeup, and essentially the makeup was just the hair pieces, and I think they actually used bronze shoe polish for the skin tone there. Starting with Star Trek the Motion Picture, they had bigger budgets for makeup, so they remade the Klingons to make them look much more distinct. And eventually they came up with an in-universe explanation for why the Klingons looked so different. Also, as the franchise progressed, especially with the Next Generation, they started treating the Klingons as a unique culture. Even though there were various human cultures that inspired aspects of their culture, they really tried to make them a more believable and interesting culture. And one thing I think the writers did very well, Klingon culture had some very high ideals, especially involving honor, but not all individual Klingons, including some very highly ranked in their society, lived up to those ideals. Anyway, if you want some music to go with this, I'll have a link in the description. You can listen to some music from the Star Trek the Motion Picture soundtrack. Okay, now, with the unit we're now starting, Unit B, which I'm calling the Plurality of Worlds. We're going back into astronomy. This is a long unit. It would take us about 4 classes to cover in class. And that means it's going to take 4 lectures, not 4 videos, but 4 lectures. Each lecture, remember, is a set of videos. And this is the primarily historical part of astronomy we're going to be doing in this course. We are going to look at some historical aspects of astronomy later on as appropriate, but this unit will be explicitly historical. The title, The Plurality of Worlds, is kind of an old-fashioned way to maybe describe the problem of whether or not there is other life in the universe or not. And there are a number of reasons why we're going to look at the historical development of our subject here. One is, I find it interesting, and it's my class, and if you want to do only what you find interesting, then teach your own class. But more importantly, it's worth looking at because astronomy actually is the oldest of the disciplines that we call science in the modern sense today. And also, one of the things you're supposed to get from a core science class is an understanding of how science works and what it is. And since not only is astronomy the oldest of the disciplines that we now consider sciences, it's also essentially the first one to become a science in the modern sense. And looking at that transition is, I think, a useful way of highlighting what makes science science and how it's different from other aspects of or other approaches to knowledge. So I'm going to do this also with a focus, not exclusively, but there will be a focus on what historical ideas and the development of the way we thought about the universe implied about the possibility of there being life elsewhere in the universe. And I also thought it would be good here to start by looking at a point we need to keep in mind is that when we're examining how people thought many, many years ago, centuries, millennia ago, their way of thinking about things was often radically different from ours. And so there are words that we use in usually translating, because they weren't writing in modern English, their thoughts that the word in its current usage isn't what they meant by whatever word we're translated as. So with our title of this unit, The Plurality of Worlds, I thought we'd just start by considering what does the word world mean? And I think if you ask most people today, what is the world at least, they would say, well, the world is the Earth, the planet Earth. What is, you know, we often use the term world to refer to an individual planet or maybe in some cases a moon. In Star Trek, for example, the planet Kronos is often called the Klingon homeworld. It's the planet that Klingons originally came from. Well, world, at least words that we have translated as world, have not always meant either Earth or planet. And I'll give you a few examples of this. Starting with a book by Aristotle called On the Heavens, which was written around 350 BC. And I've got an English translation and then the original Greek, which, by the way, my knowledge of Greek is very, very limited. I know the alphabet well enough where I can come up with a butchered pronunciation of many words, and I can pick out a few words here and there. That's about my knowledge of Greek. Okay, but I know enough to pick out the word from this sentence that was translated as world in this English translation. It's this word right here. Like I said, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but it's something like Oranos, which is actually give the deity that gave its name to the planet Uranus is closely related to that. It does not mean Earth, nor does it mean planet. A better literal translation would be the heavens or the universe. So in this context, world here in the English translation is actually referring to something that we would probably better describe as a universe using our modern terminology. Here's a little bit later Greek. This is from a book in the New Testament called the Second Epistle of Peter, as the Apostle Peter is the supposed author of it. And here, Peter, whoever was writing under that name, and the King James translation is talking about Noah's flood. And the English translation has world and this construction, heavens and earth here, which you might recognize as echoing Genesis. Apparently, ancient Hebrew had no single word for universe. So if they wanted to talk about the entire universe, they would earth and then everything that wasn't the earth, which would be the heavens. So if you look down here in the Greek, a little bit different grammatical case here, but here you have the same word Aristotle used, that was translated there as world, here as heavens. This word right here roughly would be pronounced gi, which would be earth. Geology, geography come from that Greek word. And then this word right here that the King James translators rendered into English as world is cosmos. And that very much means universe, not planet or earth. One little bit here of Greek. This is from an actual astronomical treatise and a rather technical one, which we'll learn a little bit about, by a guy named Claudius Ptolemy. Book's called the Almagest from about 150 AD. And here he's describing the shape of the heavens and the earth. And so here you see the translator here has again this word, Oronos is translated as heavens, and Gi properly as earth. One last little bit in this kind of little translation-y stuff. This is from something from late medieval, early Renaissance Latin, depending on how you want to do it. This is Nicholas Copernicus's book from 1543, so definitely Renaissance, I guess, Latin. And so first two chapter headings. And so this first part is usually translated that the world is spherical. Mundus, here the word we might translate as world, is means definitely universe. That it's often used. English word that derived from this is mundane, meaning everyday, worldly, as opposed to say something of some spiritual importance. The second chapter heading here is that the Earth is also spherical, indicating that Copernicus definitely didn't mean Earth or planet by what he has up here. And by the way, my Latin is only marginally better, well, probably a little bit more than marginally better than my Greek, but it's still not good. So if you were familiar with either language, you're probably laughing at me and my bad pronunciations at this point. All right, this is actually a good, even though it's been short, this is a good place to break conceptually. So I'll give you the attendance secret code for this lecture, for this video. The other videos in this lecture course will have their own. And that is one of my favorite restaurants, Hernandez in Mexican restaurant in Delavan, Wisconsin. And I guess I've been able to tell over the years that I've gotten older because I can't eat quite as much there as I used to. It's much harder for me to finish a full entree than it used to be. But anyway, so Hernandez restaurant is my, like I said, one of my favorite restaurants, and the attendance secret code here. Fortunately, I haven't been able to go there for a couple of years. All right, let's see here. Stop the share. I will see you in the next video when we will continue with Lecture 4 and Unit B. I guess I won't see you, but you'll probably see me.